Welcome back. I'm Bill Jasper, and we have with us today Christian Gomez. We're going to continue our conversation about the USMCA, the U.S.-Mexico-Canada agreement to replace NAFTA. Christian, one of the very startling things about this that we've seen since it was released nearly 2 weeks ago is that some very unusual people have been praising it, people who've been very critical of President Trump, major globalists who are in favor of NAFTA and the TPP and these other agreements. Fill us in on this.
That's right. Trump, as a candidate, said Americanism, not globalism. Well, unfortunately, some of the key leaders in the globalism movement are the ones who've totally endorsed this agreement. And I'm going to start with the most prominent of the globalist officials of them all, probably, Richard Haass, the president of the Council on Foreign Relations, who tweeted just after the agreement came out. He said, "The USMCA looks to be the trade pact formerly known as NAFTA plus 10 to 20%. Hope it becomes a precedent for TPP. I suggest the U.S.-Pacific Trade Agreement." And then he adds, "What matters is that the U.S. joins it. Doing so would bolster our strategic position vis-a-vis China in our economy," talking about how he would like the USMCA to be precedent for joining the TPP, which he sees as being some kind of strategy to stop and contain the rise of communist China.
Well, he had another follow-up similar tweet to that too, which built upon that. Do you have that available?
Yes, I do. The next day, Haass again was just tweeting away his praises for the USMCA, where he says, USMCA is NAFTA plus TPP, plus a few tweaks. Whatever, if at real Donald Trump and the Congress are now prepared to embrace a pro-trade agenda, it is all to the good. Ideally, U.S. participation in TPP by another name would be next. Failing that, a U.S.-Japan FTA would be second best.
So here we have the president of the CFR, the Council on Foreign Relations, Richard Haass, who is all in favor of globalism and world government. He has made it clear in several of his major statements on this issue. And we have Robert Lighthizer, who was the U.S. trade representative who negotiated, the lead negotiator in this, is a member of the Council on Foreign Relations. But a number of other people who were trade representatives and negotiators in the Obama administration, globalists there, who negotiated the TPP, the Trans-Pacific Partnership, have also come out in favor of it and praising it.
That's right. One of the key individuals, well, there's several key individuals actually, but one, to name just one of them to start out with, you have the former U.S. ambassador under Obama to Canada, Bruce Heyman, who Obama appointed back in 2013. Well, Ambassador Heyman said about the TPP just the very next day. So after the agreement had come out, he probably did like me and read through some of it that very night on the USTR website. This is what he had to say about it when he spoke on CNBC. He said, "From some of the reads I got overnight, 2/3 of this agreement is essentially going back to TPP."
That's an amazing statement.
And then he goes on to say, all they did was take so much of the language of TPP and implement it here as it pertains to Canada. And then in addition to Heyman, also on CNBC, they were able to interview Fordham Law professor Matthew Gold. Now, Matthew Gold, he served in the Obama administration also. He was the deputy assistant to the U.S. Trade Representative for North America. In fact, he also served as a trade advisor to the president for the North American Leaders Summit and was a participant in the talks that brought Canada and Mexico into the TPP in the first place. So he was a key individual, a key architect rather, in bringing the TPP together as it pertains to Canada and Mexico. And this is what he had to say about that. Gold said, he got a large number of small updates, referring to President Trump, most of which were in the TPP agreement, which he pulled out of. He got us back to a small increased access in the Canadian dairy market, almost all of which was in the TPP. So right there you have a top TPP official telling us that this is basically the TPP put inside here.
And again, the significance of this is immense. Candidate Donald Trump and President Donald Trump denounced the TPP, the Trans-Pacific Partnership, which is this massive agreement for all the Pacific Rim countries to come into, because he said it was a terrible threat to our national sovereignty, was going to have devastating impact. And now key architects of that agreement say, hey, it's in this new agreement that we've put together that has been put together for the Trump administration. Now there are others in there who point out that you quoted, that the same people are from the Obama administration were the ones in the State Department, the Commerce Department, who really put together the USMCA.
That's exactly right. For example, Trevor Kincaid, who was the USTR spokesman for the Obama administration, he told the Huffington Post regarding President Trump's announcement that he gave at the Rose Garden, standing behind all these trade negotiators that worked on this massive agreement. Kincaid said, ironically, he called them horrible negotiators when running for office. It's really the same with a new name. It's basically the 22 Jump Street of trade deals. And the Huffington Post pointed out that those same individuals behind President Trump at the Rose Garden were the same career negotiators and diplomats working in the State Department and the USTR office. These people didn't really change necessarily. The same people who worked for Obama or the same people working for Lighthizer and Trump who wrote the USMCA agreement.
These are the deep state swamp creatures who are still there in all these departments. We see it in defense and state and commerce and energy and EPA, etc. Many of these people, this huge bureaucracy, are still entrenched there, continuing the same program. The mystery in all of this is why President Trump has not done anything, come out publicly and said, hey, wait a minute, this is not going to fly, and put a thumbs down on it. We are hoping that that is going to be the case, but I believe it's not, for Americans, we had better get on our congressman right now and say, hey, wait a minute, there's a lot of sovereignty-threatening, sovereignty-destroying features that we've already discovered in here. You better let the president know that we're not going to go along with this. Do you see that being effective in perhaps getting the White House to say that's the end of this?
Absolutely. President Trump seemed, in my opinion, to be very knowledgeable about the TPP and why it was a bad deal for America. He was rightly so in pointing that out. All President Trump has to do is go to his own USTR website and open up the various chapters. He himself should read through, just skim it, Mr. President, skim through the USMCA, and in a separate tab, open the TPP and look at it side by side. You probably won't be able to tell the difference apart. Or I would recommend that the president call his Attorney General, Jeff Sessions, who when he was in the Senate did a fantastic job exposing the same problems in the TPP that we find in the USMCA. So we need to get the president to see this, because I don't think he's in this. And I think that if the president does see what is in the USMCA, he'll be as frustrated as the rest of us are about how this agreement is a total betrayal of what he wants and what we want, which is to protect American sovereignty.
Well, we have to hold people accountable, and President Trump needs to know that he's got to take a look at this. He's been praising it thus far, saying it's a great deal for America, but I agree with you, he probably hasn't actually dug into it and looked at it. He's going by what his advisors and negotiators are telling him, and it's time for the president to look at it himself and let the negotiators know that, no, this agreement is not going to fly. Thank you very much, and we will continue looking at this as Christian and our other writers at the New American delve into the USMCA. Thank you, and go to thenewamerican.com for updates on this.